The first signs of trouble weren't the cramps or the spotting. They were the missed calls from Diana, my mother-in-law. 3 of them, all within an hour of my doctor's appointment. Somehow, she already knew. I sat in my car outside the hospital, staring at the notifications lighting up my phone. My hands trembled as I declined another incoming call from her. The doctor's words still echoed in my mind. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Bennett. There's no heartbeat." At 12 weeks pregnant, I thought we were finally safe. Michael and I had waited to tell anyone until after the first trimester, anyone except his mother. Diana had practically forced it out of him 3 weeks ago during one of her surprise Sunday visits. Now, at 35, I was facing my 3rd miscarriage in 2 years. The drive home was a blur. Michael met me at the door, his face drawn with concern. He'd left work early after my tearful call from the doctor's office. "Emma," he whispered, pulling me into his arms. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." I buried my face in his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne, letting the tears finally fall. "Your mother's been calling," I managed between sobs. "How does she even know?" Michael stiffened slightly. "I didn't tell her, I swear. But you know how she is. She probably called the clinic pretending to be you again." He led me to the couch, keeping his arm around me. "I'll handle her, okay? You don't need to talk to anyone right now." But Diana wasn't someone you could simply handle. She showed up at our door less than an hour later, letting herself in with the emergency key we'd given her last year when Michael had the flu. I heard her heels clicking on the hardwood floor before I saw her. "Emma? Michael?" Her voice carried through our home like it owned the place. "I brought dinner, and we need to talk." Michael squeezed my hand. "Mom, this isn't a good time," he called out, but she was already standing in our living room doorway, designer handbag in one hand, casserole dish in the other. "Nonsense, this is exactly the right time." She set both items down and perched herself on our armchair, smoothing her immaculate gray skirt. "We need to discuss what happened and make a plan moving forward." I felt Michael tense beside me. "Mom, Emma just got home from the hospital. She needs rest, not a planning session." Diana's perfectly lined lips pulled into a familiar frown. "Michael, darling, this is the 3rd time. Clearly, whatever you're doing isn't working." She turned her sharp green eyes to me. "Have you been following that diet I sent you? The one my friend Janet's daughter used. She had her baby after just 2 months on it." "Mom, stop," Michael warned, but Diana was on a roll. "And those prenatal yoga classes I recommended. Janet's daughter swears by them. But you're always too busy with work, aren't you, Emma?" She reached into her handbag, pulling out a stack of printed articles. "I've brought some information about natural fertility treatments, since the modern medical approach obviously isn't working." The numbness I'd been feeling since leaving the hospital began to crack, letting anger seep through. "Diana, I followed every recommendation, every diet, every supplement, every old wives' tale you sent my way. Sometimes these things just happen." "To some women, perhaps," Diana sniffed. "But the Bennett women have always been fertile. I had Michael when I was 37, you know? No problems at all." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. "Have you considered that maybe you're just not meant to carry on the Bennett line?" The room went deadly quiet. Michael's hand tightened around mine to the point of pain. "Get out!" His voice was low, dangerous. I'd never heard him speak to his mother that way before. Diana blinked, genuine surprise crossing her features. "Michael, I'm only trying to help. Someone needs to address the elephant in the room. Your wife is failing to provide you with children. As your mother, I have a right to be concerned about the future of our family." I stood up suddenly, my legs shaky but holding. "The future of your family?" A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, slightly hysterical. "You want to talk about the future of the Bennett line, Diana? Fine, let's talk about it." Michael looked up at me, confusion clear on his face. "Emma, you don't have to." "No, I think I do." I walked to my home office, aware of both of them watching me. My hands were steady now as I pulled out the manila envelope I'd been keeping in my desk drawer for the past month. The one I promised myself I wouldn't open unless absolutely necessary. "What is that?" Diana's voice had lost some of its certainty. I returned to the living room, clutching the envelope like a shield. 3 weeks ago, when you insisted on knowing about the pregnancy, I started doing some research. Real research, not your friend Janet's Facebook articles. I pulled out the first document, I requested copies of Michael's childhood medical records. Diana went very still. You had no right. I had every right. I cut her off. As his wife, as the woman you've been tormenting with guilt and shame for 2 years. I turned to Michael, my heart aching. Honey, did you know you had mumps when you were 12? Michael frowned. Yeah, I remember being sick for a while. Why does that matter? Because I continued, my eyes locked on Diana's increasingly pale face. According to these records, you developed complications. Bilateral orchitis. Your doctor at the time strongly recommended follow-up testing due to the potential impact on future fertility. But those tests were never done. Care to explain why, Diana? Diana's perfectly manicured hands gripped her handbag so tightly her knuckles turned white. Those records are ancient history. They're probably not even accurate. They're accurate, I interrupted, pulling out more papers. I cross-referenced them with the hospital's archives. You were specifically warned about the risks. The doctor wrote multiple notes about scheduling follow-up appointments, but you never took Michael back. Why? Michael stood up slowly, his face a mask of confusion. Mom, what's Emma talking about? Diana's composure cracked slightly. It wasn't. I didn't. For the first time in our 7 years of knowing each other, I watched my mother-in-law struggle for words. You were just a child. I didn't want you going through invasive tests, and you were fine. Fine? My voice rose despite my attempts to stay calm. You didn't want him going through tests, but you had no problem letting him go through life not knowing about a medical condition that could affect his future. Letting me go through multiple miscarriages while you blamed my diet, my work schedule, my stress levels. I was protecting him. Diana shot back, rising to her feet. Do you know what it's like raising a son alone? Every decision I made was to protect him. Protect me from what? Michael's quiet question cut through the tension like a knife. Mom, what exactly were you protecting me from? Diana's face crumpled. From feeling different. From feeling less than. She sank back into the armchair, suddenly looking every one of her 63 years. After your father left, I promised myself you would never feel inadequate, never question your worth as a man. So instead, I said, my voice trembling with barely contained rage, you let me question my worth as a woman? Let me blame myself for every lost pregnancy? Let me think I was failing your son? Michael took the medical records from my hands, reading them carefully. His face grew darker with each page. All this time, he whispered. All those appointments with Emma's doctors, all the tests she went through, you knew there might be an issue on my side. I didn't know for certain, Diana protested weakly. And you seemed so happy with Emma. I didn't want to bring up ancient medical history. Ancient medical history? Michael's voice cracked. Mom, Emma and I have been trying to have a baby for 2 years. We've spent thousands on fertility treatments. She's gone through 3 miscarriages. And all this time, you've been sending her diet plans and yoga tutorials. Tears spilled down Diana's cheeks, smearing her perfect makeup. I thought if she just tried hard enough. If I tried hard enough. I laughed bitterly. Do you know what it's like, Diana, carrying that guilt? Thinking your body is betraying you, failing the person you love most in the world? Do you know how many nights I've spent crying, wondering what I did wrong? I never meet. Diana began, but Michael cut her off. Stop, Mom, just stop. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from whenever he was deeply upset. You didn't mean to hurt anyone. You've been watching Emma torture herself for years, watching her blame herself, all while sitting on information that could have helped us understand what was happening. Diana stood up again, reaching for Michael. Darling, please. Everything I did was because I love you. Love. I couldn't hold back anymore. Love isn't controlling your adult son's medical information. Love isn't watching your daughter-in-law suffer through multiple miscarriages while hiding crucial facts about her husband's health history. Love isn't showing up hours after I lost another baby to criticize my lifestyle choices. The room fell silent except for Diana's quiet sobs. Michael walked to the window, his back to both of us, shoulders rigid with tension. When he finally turned around, his eyes were red. Mom, he said softly, I need you to leave. Michael, please. Now, his voice was firm. I can't even look at you right now. All these years, all these lies. He shook his head. Just go. Diana gathered her things with shaking hands, mascara tracks staining her cheeks. At the living room doorway, she paused. I only wanted what was best for you, she whispered. What was best for me? Michael's laugh was hollow. Was it best for me not to know about my own health? Was it best for Emma to blame herself for something that might not have been her fault at all? Was it best for us to spend years trying to have a baby without all the medical facts? Diana flinched at each question. Without another word, she turned and fled. We heard the front door close, then the sound of her car starting in the driveway. The silence she left behind was deafening. Michael and I stood there, the medical records scattered between us like shrapnel from an explosion. Finally, he walked over and pulled me into his arms. The next few weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and painful conversations. Michael scheduled the fertility tests his mother had avoided 23 years ago, and we both tried to process the weight of everything we'd learned. Diana's calls went unanswered, her text messages unread, her weekly dinner invitations declined. I just can't believe she let you go through all of this alone, Michael said one evening as we sat on our back porch watching the sunset. The test results had confirmed what the childhood medical records suggested. His fertility was severely impaired due to the untreated mom's complications. I squeezed his hand. I wasn't alone, I had you. He turned to me, his eyes swimming with tears. But I could have done more. We could have explored other options earlier if we'd known. Maybe those miscarriages could have been prevented. Hey, I said softly, turning his face toward mine. We can't change the past. What matters is what we do now. What we did was make an appointment with a fertility specialist who specialized in cases like ours. Dr. Harrison was direct but kind as she laid out our options. With your specific situation, she explained, IVF with ICSI would give you the best chances of conception. We can also discuss sperm donation as an alternative. As we left her office, clutching a folder full of information and treatment plans, we found Diana sitting in the waiting room. She looked smaller somehow, without her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes. Mom? Michael stopped short. What are you doing here? Diana stood, wringing her hands nervously. The receptionist. She's an old friend. She let me know you had an appointment today. She took a hesitant step forward. I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few weeks, and I know I can never undo what I did. I felt Michael tense beside me, but before he could speak, Diana continued. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. Her voice cracked. I told myself I was protecting you, Michael, but really, I was protecting myself. From my own fears, my own failures as a mother. She turned to me. And Emma, what I did to you, watching you suffer, blaming you. It was cruel, unforgivably cruel. Yes, I said quietly, it was. Diana nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I understand if you never want to see me again. But first, she opened her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is for you, both of you. Michael took the envelope cautiously. Inside was a cashier's check that made both our eyes widen. It's my savings, Diana explained. I've been putting money aside for years, telling myself it was for my retirement. But this is what it should be used for. Your treatment, whatever you decide to do. It won't make up for everything, but maybe it can help you build your future. I stared at the check, then at my mother-in-law. The woman who had criticized my every move for 7 years was now standing before us, stripped of her armor of perfectionism and control, offering us not just money, but a chance at the family we dreamed of. Mom, Michael's voice was rough with emotion. We can't take your retirement money. Please, she whispered, let me do this one thing right. I looked at Michael, seeing the conflict in his eyes. Then I did something that surprised all of us. I stepped forward and hugged Diana. She stiffened for a moment before melting into the embrace, her tears soaking my shoulder. Thank you, I said softly, not for the money, but for finally telling the truth. 6 months later, Diana sat with us in the same fertility clinic, holding my hand as we watched the ultrasound screen. Dr. Harrison moved the wand slowly, and suddenly there it was, a tiny flickering heartbeat. Looks perfect, Dr. Harrison smiled. Congratulations. Diana squeezed my hand, her eyes fixed on the screen showing her future grandchild. She kept her word about doing things right. No more unsolicited advice, no more criticism, no more control. Instead, she'd become our biggest supporter through the IVF process, bringing me ginger tea for the morning sickness and helping Michael with his injection techniques. "That's your baby," she whispered, her voice full of wonder. "That's really your baby." I looked at Michael, who was wiping tears from his eyes, then back at Diana. "No," I corrected her gently. "That's our baby. All of ours." Sometimes the path to healing isn't about forgetting the past, but about finding a way to build a better future. Diana's secret had nearly torn our family apart, but the truth, painful as it was, had given us a chance to rebuild something stronger, something real. As we left the clinic that day, I rested my hand on my still flat stomach, feeling for the first time not like a failure, but like exactly what I was, a mother-to-be, supported by a family that had learned the hard way that love means telling the truth, even when it hurts.